in an evening of 2008, I received a call from Alice, the wife of a friend, Toon, who resided in a province about 8 hours drive from the capital where I work with the Malaysian Institute of Accountants as a head of public practice. Now, the reason for Alice's call that evening, apparently Toon had passed away 2 days ago in a horrible accident, literally in front of her eyes. And being a non-CPA, she is definitely not in a position to take over her late husband's practice. And that's why she had to call me and find out what are the options available for her. And I then checked on the records with the institute, and to my horror, I realized that Toon had not submitted a practice continuation arrangement, which is actually a requirement by the institute in the 6 years that he had been in practice by that time. Now, you will be asking, what is so great about this practice continuation arrangement? In a very simple sense, it is actually a will, but the will for that accounting practice itself. And the whole idea is, why do we need a practice continuation arrangement? It is because we lack the proficiency to be able to predict what is going to happen in the future, like in Toon's case in that respect. And that's why the Malaysian Institute have made it compulsory for, if you are a sole practitioner, if you are a single proprietor firms, you need to file in an arrangement with the institute so that if something happened to you, there is actually a process where somebody can come in to take over the practice. Unlike in the case of Alice, because she is not a CPA, she would not be able to manage her late husband's practice, which was thriving at that time, actually. And I myself actually was at fault because I knew Toon for quite a number of years, even before he had his own practice. He was with Arthur Anderson at that time, and eventually came out and set up his own practice. And I keep on reminding him about the importance of submitting a PCA or practice continuation arrangement. And every time he would say that, oh yeah, it's in the process of discussions. And there was once that he says that I already drafted the agreement. I'm waiting for the other party to sign it, and then I will just lodge it with the institutes, and I leave it as it is. I think it is our human nature that we do not like to talk about our mortality. And that's why we tend to push away things like drawing up a will as an individual, or a PCA if you are running a practice, a CPA practice, or for some, even buying insurance per se. But do you understand the importance of having a PCA in that respect? Like, for example, in Alice's case here, for someone pass away without a will, it easily can take up to about 2 years in Malaysia if your estate is small to eventually get the administrator to pass on the asset to the estate. Now imagine that for 2 years, where are your family going to have that that cash flow, for example, to live their daily life, if they, assuming that if they have no other source of income. And I just checked based on the American CPA's website, 90% of the sole proprietor or single proprietor CPAs, all their assets were tied up in the firm. 90% of it, of their assets are tied up in the firms. So imagine that your family, surviving families, will not be able to access those assets in the process of being cleared by the administrator. Then the other side is, what about the clients? Don't they deserve better? Yes, you are no longer around, but they still need to file their tax filing. The staff needs to get their salaries at the end of the month, but all the money are now frozen in the bank. And the worst thing is that, what about professional indemnity insurance, where you need to inform the insurers and make sure that existing cases are still being followed through and so on and so forth. Without this PCA in place, everything will be very chaotic. And definitely it doesn't serve anyone's good purpose. So that's why it is very important that for sole practitioners or single proprietor firms, please get the PCA in place and lodge it with the institute. The American CPAs has an examples of what a PCA will look like. The Malaysian Institute makes it mandatory, but of course, people don't actually do it. There's a study by the American CPA that only 6% of the sole practitioners in the US has actually proceed ahead to draw up a PCA and lodge it with the AICPA. Now, luckily for Alice, I actually worked with her and managed to get her late husband's good friends, who happened to be also a practicing CPA, to agree to take over the firms without much haggling over the price of the practice itself. But not everybody is as lucky as Alice it is. So my fervent hope, especially for those who are practicing on their own, you are the driving force of your practice. And without you around, the whole thing will collapse and will dissipate in value very, very fast. So please draw up a PCA, because that will take care of your clients, your employees, as well as your family members. As Winston Churchill has said, a will, or in this case, a PCA, is the most sincerest form of love letter when it is being baptized by the tears of the widow and the tears of the orphan. With that, over to you, Mr. Toastmasters.
Thank you, Johnny. Now let's